Buonasera, everyone. I am Takumi Yoshida from Japan, and tonight I'll be talking about some user experience design characteristics and interesting backgrounds of them in Japan that are unique and different from what you would find in the Western or European culture. To begin with, shortly about myself. I have some multicultural background where I was born in Sydney, lived in Japan in several cities, and then also lived in Hong Kong for 5 years or so, and studied design in the United Kingdom. Again, several cities in the UK. And then I moved and lived in Turin, Torino, in Italy for about 5 years. And recently I just moved back from Italy to Japan again in a new city in Hokkaido. So that's pretty multicultural. And I'm an interaction designer, but I studied industrial design. So in the UK, I studied product design and moved on to practice interaction design, which took place in Torino. And I worked for Experientia, the user experience design consultancy, as a senior interaction designer. So that's a brief bio of myself. Now, in this talk about user experience design in Japan, I'd like to focus on something that's more everyday, ordinary designs found across Japan with unique user experience aspects to them. These are the stuff that are experienced by millions of Japanese people daily, but probably not so known to foreigners or Western people who never visited Japan or who may hear about Japanese designs, but not these stuff. So I hope you find them interesting. They all have some unique characteristics, which I think comes from some kind of common ground of Japanese history and culture. So I'd like to try and highlight that. And then I try to provide some perspective as to why they are designed in certain ways and why certain things that I will show you are like that. So there are many aspects that are interesting to show you, which are different in the way they approach the user experience in Japan. These are some points that I think are relevant in Japan. There are many more I can think of, but since I can't go through everything, I'd like to focus on 4 aspects of them: collective then individual, micro then macro, explanatory then exploratory, evolutionary then revolutionary. And what they each mean, I'll try to provide some context and examples in each following sections. So let's start with some examples about collective then individual. Now, this is about things that are designed to respect collective benefits or collective values than individual preferences or desire. The first example of this I'd like to show you is Walkman. And I know Walkman is a very famous product. It's an international, worldwide smash hit that changed our lifestyle, the way we listen to music. But it was first conceived by the Sony's founder, Akio Morita, as a way to enjoy music without disturbing other people in a public space. So it was not a way to enjoy music for you, but it was a way to do something you'd like without worrying about the other people. And that's the important part. But outside of Japan, it's been perceived as a way to liberate those people, individuals, out from the fixed music rooms or fixture of music equipment. Or to shut you out from the outside world if you're outside and in an environment that you want to mentally escape, maybe. So, although this was an international hit product, it was conceived from a different perspective of what value it can present to the users. So the user experience might be different for the Japanese people who use this Walkman as compared to the Europeans or Western people using this product. Another example is what is called mana mode, which is a vibration or silent mode on mobile phones today, a very common feature, which actually appeared in Japan in 1996, again as a way to not disturb other people in public space. So Japanese people are worried about the loud ringtone noise that may happen in the public space, and they came up with this vibration feature, and they called it a mana mode. The oldest phone I could find from Nokia, which has the same similar feature, was actually from a few years later, 1999, and it was implemented to their phones as a way to increase the chance of noticing calls or alerts. So again, there's a difference in the same feature, but the value was different, and the user experience in terms of what to give priority to was, in case of Japanese or Japan, it was about the other people, surrounding people, and for the West, it's about you, and it's about how you would get notified and how you would more likely to notice the calls or alerts. So those are different examples of products. And another example is this post address, which is a little bit more conceptual, but nevertheless interesting, where in the West, you would start with an individual name and street number and city or town or city, and then the county or prefecture and maybe a country. So you have individual first and then community last. Whereas in Japan, this is the opposite. So you write from the prefecture first, and then the city, and then the word, and then the street number, and then finally onto the individual, the recipients. So in Japan, this is community first and individual last. So again, this is another conceptual example, or the way Japanese people think, where we have the collective mindset first, and then the individual preferences or desired after that. Well, not necessarily last, and it's not that we think it's less important. It's important, but it comes usually after the community values. So that was collective, then individual. The next aspect is explanatory, then exploratory. And this is about how so many things in Japan are designed to provide as much information as possible beforehand to make subsequent interactions as smooth as possible. Here's an example of an electronics store in Japan. This is a common view you can find in a medium to large scale electronics store with full of these informations explaining different things to you. And if you get closer to a product like this, it's a home telephone, again, it's still full of information at that scale about the product, about the campaigns or the contract or the discounts. You can see the same kind of approach to this flyer design. This is a supermarket flyer design, and it's full of explanatory information about whatever product they're trying to sell. Same thing with a website for an online shopping website. Full of information again. So all these have this very similar aptitude of trying to give you as much information as possible within the limited boundary of space or time. Another examples can be seen in manuals that comes with the product. So this is an iPhone, and famously it comes with very minimalistic packaging. And so the instruction manual is very small, and probably it's about 5 to 10 pages, I think. Whereas in Japan, you get this huge book, a very thick book, and it's not specific to one product. It's very common to find this in many Japanese mobile phones from Japanese manufacturers. In fact, this one has 627 pages, and everything about this product is explained. So you don't have to find someone or go somewhere to look for the information. It's all there. So it's very explanatory, and they're not really optimized for users to explore and learn, but rather they're just, all the informations are explained and provided up front. Another example is one of my favorites, is this is a train route map you can find in the subway system, and each row represents the station that the train stops, and the row with a number represent, like, they show you the best carriage to get onto in order to change, in order to have the most efficient, fastest transfer to another line at that station. So again, like, this is like a hyper optimization for already efficient train systems by providing this information up front and explain those. So that was explanatory, then exploratory design patterns. Another aspect is evolutionary, then revolutionary. This is about things that are designed to perfect or improve existing concepts, or in other words, the right answer as a concept. Something is right to do certain things, and then trying to do it better and better and better, rather than trying to find completely new solutions. So another version of what's right. So rather than doing that, there are a lot of examples where Japanese products and services are trying to provide what they think is the right answer and then improve on them. So back to the mobile phone example. This is a mobile phone, a typical one that used to be sold in Japan before smartphones became prevalent. These are the kind of top features that it had, like long-lasting batteries with lots of connectivities, even TV receptions, more than one displays, more than one camera, and even NFC chip that's quite hot today in the press for transport tickets for subways and for small payments to buy drinks at kiosks and stuff. This was introduced in November 2007. Sorry. This was the year that iPhone came out, and iPhone had far less features, as you probably know. Like, it had a bigger screen and it had Wi-Fi, but the screen resolution is lower, the camera is lower, there's only one camera, there's no NFC, there's no GPS, battery lasts less. So everything was less ideal in terms of spec, but this was more regarded as a revolutionary product that tried to find a new answer to existing problems and upcoming problems, information problems maybe, and challenges, whereas the other one was optimized to give a better experience of what's known to be the right answer, what was believed to be the right answer beforehand. So it's a really typical product development style in Japan, where everything follows the previous footsteps and becomes evolutionary rather than revolutionary. Another completely different example is this food samples or fake food arts. You can find these in many restaurants in Japan, usually from low to mid-range restaurants. They are amazingly realistic, and I think it's getting better every year still. And this is like another example of how we do really well when we know what the right answers are. So in this case, the right answer is how the food should look like in the end. And that's something that you don't have to design from scratch. It's known. So the job is then to become simply trying to recreate the realistic food as much as possible, like as well as possible. And it becomes like an evolutionary incremental process. And again, also this touches on the notion of explanatory design too, in terms of service of restaurants. This is serving the needs of people to wanting to know what the food is going to be like before even ordering. So that's another aspect. It's an example for another explanatory aspect of it too. So that was evolutionary, then revolutionary. Things that won't upset the status quo. So these evolutionary design tend to also focus on smaller details than changing everything from the ground up. So, which leads to the next point, that's micro than macro. It's about designing with extreme focus on micro details and smaller stuff, usually super tiny details to maybe human level scales and matters. than macro level aesthetics or consistency or systems. And the macro level, I mean that by architecture or city or government or country, that macro level. So compared to that, a lot of things are optimized at the much smaller scale. So, example, this is a mechanical pencil that you probably all familiar with, but this one is a pencil where the lead rotates as you write, so the tip of the lead stays sharp. This is the whole concept of it is very microscopic detail that is hard to communicate, and that's the whole point. As you can see in the picture on the right side, the lead close-up on the bottom one, this one, has a sharper corner than the other one. And this is because the lead rotates every time you write on the paper. And this is designed to do that just because they want to keep the lead sharp, so you can write it with a sharp, very thin strokes. It's very typical of Japan. It's like a micro innovation where the experience is highly individual and also quite small because the writing itself doesn't change. Another example you can see is in business hotel rooms. So on a large scale, like the room is very small, and it's even smaller than probably monocale rooms in Italy. But it's got full of features and functions with as big bed as possible, and small workspace is still available. The TV is as big as it can fit. There's of course the fridge, air conditioning, wired and wireless internet, complete set of amenities, and including pajamas, and also the charging cables for your mobile phones. For all types of mobile phones, including Japanese ones, Android ones, and iPhone ones, and iPod ones, the old ones. So they try to put every possible functions in a tiny room. So it's very livable, but it's very small. There's this two ends that on the macro level, it's not really trying to give the users the best experience possible, but on the micro level, whatever they can do to fit, they do it and provide them. This can be also seen in the bathroom of this kind of hotels, which looks something like this. And it's often called a unit bath because the whole thing is one unit. And as you can see, it's really tiny again, but it's very functional with a washlet toilet. It's called washlet with the shower that washes your butt. And then there's a bathtub, not just a shower, but bathtub if you want to take a bath, and the shower. And then a shared tap and a sink, where the tap is for the sink and the shower and the bathtub to filling up the bath. So everything is super functional in a very tiny space. So instead of trying to cut down something and provide a more roomy experience, or just even better, making the room bigger, they try to focus on innovating in this limited constraints. Last example, this is a macro view of Torino, just for comparison's sake. And you can see the visible street grids, some overall color scheme of the rooftops, and also many small distributed piazzas along with the big parks. Compare this to Tokyo, and this is to the same scale. You see a lot of complicated intertwined roads, so no kind of consideration was given to how the large-scale roads should connect and work together. Also, the city looks gray from above because every building has different colors, so altogether it starts to look gray from the distance. So the whole thing is a concrete jungle with no strategic green space. But if you get closer, from macro view to getting closer to micro view, so this is a mid-range view, there's a super reliable and punctual public transport with very convenient fast payment system using the mobile phones or this contactless card, which started by a Japanese company long before Oysters and others. And all the streets are clean, so it's very easy to navigate and move across. And you don't feel this you wouldn't feel lost. And if you get even closer to individual building levels, this is an example taken by Jan Chepchase. available on his website there. There's this peculiar building with a sliced off rooftop. They're designed to provide as much volume space as possible within the legal bounds. And at the same time, the shape of this rooftop is in order to give the sunlight availability to the neighboring buildings. So this is again, it's a legal requirement, but they are an example of how we try to give this micro optimization possible at a human scale, and everything is designed to work smoothly and to be livable and usable, at least on a human scale. But once you zoom out, there are a lot of inconsistencies and some fragmentations and discrepancies in the systems and services. So there are two extreme ends that you can observe in the Japanese service or architecture or graphic designs. So that was micro versus macro, and there's more micro attention than macro considerations. So why all these patterns, right? I have my theories, and I'd like to share what I think is the core of this. That is what I would call harmony, and it's called wa in Japanese. And this is coming from three unique aspects of Japan as a country. So one is that it's homogeneous. We have the same race, same language, same religion, same culture, and same everything. So everybody, without thinking, without being conscious about it, thinks that we share the same premise of culture, of language, of same understanding, same level of skills of everything, of math, of Japanese language, and so forth. And that sameness has been the same for the last more than 1,000 years. The geopolitical borders and cultural space has been the same, more or less, under the same, even under the same dynasty for over 1,000 years. So it's really rooted to our thinking and mental model that so many things are already shared even without talking about it. And those are met with frequent natural disasters, such as earthquakes, typhoons, volcano eruptions, and floodings, and so forth. And that's been constantly happening throughout the history of Japan, which lead to this attitude of people valuing harmony has been a rational strategy for achieving collective progress for Japan. Because there's so many big stuff happening, like earthquakes, that you can't do anything about. It's better for people, it always has been better for Japanese people to come together and try to do the same thing as a teamwork rather than being an individualistic performer. And although this sounds like a big story, it really trickles down to different aspects that I've shown you earlier about the Japanese design, Japanese unique designs. So this harmony, if you look at these points again, collective then individual, by valuing collective benefits before individual, it contributes to preserving existing harmony. So there's this harmony already existing, and if every design decision is made not to disturb the collective value, then it contributes to keeping that harmony. Again, explanatory, then exploratory. This explanation attitude increases shared knowledge among each other before various interactions occur, and therefore it keeps this harmony as a whole again. So if I know what to do before I commit in doing something, then I don't risk making this harmony, disturbing this harmony. And it's about evolutionary than revolutionary. It's by focusing on improving daily interactions on a human scale. No, sorry, that was micro versus macro. So by focusing on perfecting the right answer, everybody is safe from unknown while improving existing values without disturbing harmony. So it's similar to explanatory because we try to follow the right answer rather than to create a completely different thing and say this is better. We respect what's going on so far as a harmony of the society and people and community, and thus it's more valuable and it's better. And lastly, micro and macro. Again, the micro attention to details improves the existing user experience without the risk of breaking the harmony. So if people start to talk about macro stuff and doing big scale changes and redesigns, that is likely to cause some unbalance and instability to the harmony we try to value. So that's why I think we tend to focus on smaller things and trying to live by the constraints. So this whole thing leads to this attitude of where we try to innovate and design and provide a good user experience within the limited space available under the constraints of natural conditions or geographic conditions that are harder to change. Rather than to trying to make the constraint themselves and impose them on ourselves, because there's always been a constraint in the past that we try to live with it and then deal with it in some other limited ways. So many design and user experience aspects that are quite unique and specific in Japan. I think comes from this notion of trying to keep this harmony going on. I've collected some reference images and links on the following link. If you access it, you will see the list of links there to further look at some actual examples and images and some articles and so forth if you're interested to look at them more. Hopefully you got some interesting ideas and insights about Japanese user experience and designs. Thank you.